Hello and welcome back to another episode of Critical Reactions with your host Bryan. We're going to wrap up today with a special selection, which is where one of you tell me exactly what it is I need to check out. Today's comes at us from Rudy. I originally taped this off the radio in the 80s, and it was only this past Monday that I finally identified who recorded it. This is a straightforward traditional Scottish ballad, although with a fuller orchestration than often accompanies such things. I don't listen to much music like this, but it is simply one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. I'm down for this. I'm always down for beautiful music. We listen to so much abrasive, noisy stuff on this channel. Beauty is always something I look forward to. The group we're listening to is Sprangeen? Sprangeen? Not sure how to pronounce it. I couldn't find a pronunciation of it on the internet. The track we're looking at, though, is called Lovely Molly, off of their self-titled album. Let's dive in and see what they're bringing to the table today. A sprightly little 3 here. I like the duality in the vocals in this section.
Good morning, old man, you're herding your flock. I want a yow lamb to rear a new stock. I want a yow lamb and the best man she be.
Those little runs are beautiful as well.
Down to yon meadow, pick out a yow lamb. Be sure that you're welcome as any young man. You're heartily welcome and the best man she be. Call
Yeah, that's a beautiful song right there. I can certainly agree with that. Interestingly, both the instrumentation, the lightness of everything, and how it's all sort of intertwined, I can't really say that any of it is purely purely foundational or purely melodic. And even when we look at the percussive side, the roles get shifted around from moment to moment. For two beats, one instrument might be giving us some accented hits, while another one is just kind of holding out a tone, giving us that harmony, that foundation. And then we have another one that's playing something more melodic and moving. And then following two beats, all of those have shifted around. Our accent point comes from a different part of the song. So the way that all of it intertwines, along with the vocal inflection, those really large leaps from lower tones to higher tones, and jumping between those really big leaps, as well as bringing in that rhythmic cadence to all of it. I wonder how many people would agree with me. This reminds me of Joanna Newsom. It makes me wonder if Joanna Newsom is familiar with this. Now, Rudy had mentioned that I think they said it was a traditional Scottish ballad. I wonder if that means that the song is traditional or if that it's just written in a traditional way. When I go look up the lyrics, though, I'm certainly going to want to check into when this was written. And I'm figuring it's going to predate Joanna Newsom, but I'm just kind of curious about this whole relationship here because, like, if you had played this for me and just told me it was a Joanna Newsom track, I probably would just, yeah, of course it is. It sounds like her writing. I'm curious how much of traditional music. Well, actually, I know there's a lot of traditional musical influence in her work. Anyways, let's focus back on this band, though. So I had mentioned that the instruments are all sort of intertwining together, playing all three roles of the instrumentation simultaneously. I love the way it's all presented. By the way, we have clean division to a left and right panned instrument. We have center panned. We have the bass instrument that's center panned, and then we have the vocals. They're also in the center. And it creates this nice balance between everything. And there's a nice, I'd say that it's a bit compressed down, probably because it does sound like an older recording. There's a lot of fuzz, especially when the vocals get louder. You can hear the little bit of clipping. And it's not even clipping, it's just an increased amount of fuzz, almost as if it's room noise. Anyways, a lot of this feels like it was recorded older, possibly on tape. So it doesn't quite have a modern size to it, but I think that actually works to its benefit because the hard panning pushes the instruments away from each other and the compression pulls it closer together. And so there actually is a really tasteful gap between these instruments without having them feel completely distant. And it allows everything to sort of meld together a lot easier for the ideas as they intertwine and dance around each other to feel connected despite the space between them. You can clearly hear every instrument in its space, but they all click together. You don't have to bounce too far away in your perception to see how everything's bouncing off of one another. I really like how all of that works. Now, also focusing still on the instrumentation, everything in here is in the major key. It's very bright. There's a lot of optimism in the instrumentation, and I think that's really key here is that the instruments feel bright and positive. There's not a lot of long held out notes in here. I don't think any instrument is doing purely legato playing, which is longer held out notes. Everything is a bit sharper and abrupt to work with the the rhythmic cadence that's sort of bouncing around between all of these instruments. It creates a directionality, it creates a bounciness, it creates an energy, and it's, again, a lot of major chord stuff going on in here. It has a more uplifting sound harmonically. But I don't know if I would call this a positive, optimistic song. You see, the lyrics or the vocals bring in their own flavor to the mix. There's something a bit darker about them, a bit moodier. It's not super ultra, depressive or anything, that extremity you find in the metal. No, no, this is nice. This is balanced. It's nuanced. It brings a tinge of sadness, a little drop of, a little drop of ink in water, and it just sort of permeates and colors everything. You don't need a lot. You just need a little bit for it to affect it in a very visible way. And that's exactly what's going on here. It's just a tinge of sorrow, whatever is going on here. And it creates something that ultimately feels very bittersweet. I love that about it. It's all major chord, and yet it feels kind of sad. I'm curious what the lyrical content is going to be about. I hope it really does embody something along these lines, something bittersweet, because these two groups of the writing, the lead lyrics, the lead motif, I should say, of the vocals, the melodic theme that we have going on there. And it is a theme. The vocals play a loop over and over and over. It is a bit longer. It is melodic, but it is still a repeated phrase. But it carries something additional to everything else. And it's only by viewing all of this together that you really get the larger emotional scope here. And so, I guess that about wraps it up, because the vocals, they are a loop. We've already discussed more longer held out notes. So there are the runs. I think those are a nice addition because it brings that momentum to the vocals that's in the instrumentation. But the main part here is to hold out these notes and to bring this darker component to the instrumentation, which is interlocked. It's short ideas. It's very rhythmic. It's bright and bouncy and lots of driving energy. And kind of bringing them together. Being that it is a traditional track, we have an A and a B, and honestly, even in this case, the A and the B are very similar. I have a tough time differentiating between the two because if there are any differences, they're on a more minute level of variation going on, in that the atmosphere feels the same, the melodies from the vocals generally feel the same, and the ways that the instruments are playing generally feels the same. There might be a variation on theme, playing the same thing that they've played earlier in the A section and adjusting it a little bit. But as far as atmosphere, cadence, flow, general ideas, all the surface level stuff that's going on, it feels very similar. So the song ends up being very one note, a single minute of music stretched out over 4. Well, it's not stretched out, but looped. I think is a better way of putting that. There is, I almost left off forgetting this. I want to bring this up for sure. There is one thing that stands out here, and I guess it's about 3 minutes in. We let the sorrow, the negativity overwhelm the song, not just emotionally, where this becomes the dominant emotion, but by pushing the vocals out. They get quieter and quieter until those layers are practically removed. All that's really left is the vocals, and they are, by the note choice that's in the vocal line, coloring the entire song now without the more bouncy, positive instrumentation to balance it out. While this is happening, the song's also gradually slowing down. It's not a massive reduction in tempo, but it's enough to be felt. It almost feels as if the more negative aspects of the track overwhelms everything and grinds it to a halt, removing not just any sense of positivity, but any sense of a need of progression, of wanting to move on, to get out of this. It's so overwhelming that it becomes crippling. Pretty much as soon as we get into it, though, we're already pulling back out of it. And I like that. It's a little bit of a positive twist. It allows the song to have a moment of heavy tension, a nice contrast there. At about 75% into the track, a good time to bring in contrast in a track that's been pretty straightforward up to this point. It does great for pacing, it does great for storytelling and theme. I think generally it's just a fantastic idea. So I really enjoyed listening to this. It's beautiful, 100%. And it keeps itself moving and diverse enough throughout the entirety of the song that despite the folky A-B idea and the general focus on atmosphere and theming, it still finds a way to keep itself fresh enough for me, even. I mean, I'm somebody who really values diversity and contrast in music, and it's pretty straightforward, but I still enjoyed my time with it. I'm going to have to look more into this, either the band or the song itself, and see what's going on with that. I would not be opposed to hearing more stuff like this. Let me hit some lyrics on this. All right. This song is 7 stanzas long. There is no verse chorus thing going on, so there probably isn't an A-B idea in the music either. It's simply 4 stanzas, and then I remember that there wasn't too much, there were a couple of places where there weren't vocals present, so there might be some sort of instrumental interlude between verses, but it really wasn't that long. Certainly not the entire length of a full verse. So more of a short little moment for the instruments to take lead, but again, I don't remember the instruments changing too much then. So it probably just is A throughout, which really hones in the focusing element of the composition. And actually, from that perspective, I am glad that this version has, as Rudy had mentioned, a fuller instrumentation to this. We have 4 instruments here, which makes me wonder if this is maybe typically sung over a single lute instrument, just a single guitar-like instrument, just playing the chords underneath the vocals. I think that would fit this well too, but I do think it would have not kept my attention as well as this version does. Now getting to the lyrics though, these are written, each stanza is 4 lines long. The 4th line always says, "Ca the yos, te the nose, lovely Molly." Now I had to go look this up. This is very old speak right here. And it translates to drive the sheep to the hills. So we have our person here, our narrator, if you will. He comes upon a farm and he sees a woman, Molly, and she's doing some some farm work. She's milking some sheep. It says, as Molly was milking her ewes on a day, oh, by came young Jamie, who to her did say, your fingers go nimbly, your ewes they milk free, ca the ewes te the nose, lovely Molly. So basically comes up on this farmland, and Jamie says, Molly, you're pretty good at, you know your way around a sheep. And that's our first stanza right there. Our second one, oh, where is your father? The young man, he said, where is your father, my tender young maid? He's up in yon greenwood waiting for me. So he asked to see the maid's, Molly's father. He's like, oh, he's up waiting for me. Okay. So he goes up there, says there's a father, a shepherd, has sheep on yon hill. If you get his sanction, I'll be at your will. And if he does grant it, right gladly will I be. So like, go up there and talk to him. If everything goes well, I'll be happy about this. So he says, good morning, old man. You're herding your flock. I want a yo lamb to rear a new stock. I want a yo lamb in the best she maun be. Just says, hey, I want some sheep. I want the best sheep you've got. He says, go down to the meadow and choose out any sheep you want. He says, you can purchase it from me. So he comes back with Molly in his hand. And the old man feels, he says, oh, was ever an old man so beguiled as I am to sell my daughter instead of a lamb? Yet since I have said it, ever said it, let it be, ca the yos, te the nose, lovely Molly. So this is just an old little, almost like a nursery rhyme, like an old folk tale of a young man who comes up to a farm and tricks a farmer into selling him his daughter instead of a lamb. Just wild times, huh? And that's the whole song. I don't necessarily know if it fits with the music. There's a bittersweet element to the harmonies, but it just feels like a fun little folktale thing here with some dark under elements of selling young women. But we'll just ignore that because I assume it's from a very long time ago, a very different culture. I don't think you're supposed to look that deeply into it. But I don't see much of a bittersweet element to this. It just feels like a fun little story to tell kind of deal. So, I don't know. The dad doesn't even seem too mad about it. He's like, "Ah, you got me, kid. That was a good one. Y'all go have fun." So, yeah, I'm kind of curious if maybe I just misunderstood the emotional element. Does anybody else get a bittersweet component to this, or is it just a light, fun song? And I somehow injected a more negative element to it for some reason or another. I guess this is where we hit the ending. These are my thoughts on Lovely Molly from Sprangeen. Or Sprangeen. Still not sure how to pronounce that. If anyone has a pronunciation of that, please let me know. Like I said, I couldn't find one earlier. Beyond that, what are your thoughts, opinions, perspective on this track? Did you enjoy it? Do you have a different take on things? I posed a couple of questions in this video. If you have answers to any of them, or maybe just whatever thoughts you'd like to add, put all that down into the comments section. Above that, in the description box, you'll find a link to Linktree. It takes you here. You can find links to my music, ways to support the channel, a link to the Discord server, and so much more. Above that, if you could, like, subscribe, and ring the bell. I greatly appreciate all three of those. All right, that wraps it up for today. I'll be back tomorrow, though, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC as usual. Until next time, remember to be critical, not cynical, of the music you listen to, and have a fantastic morning, afternoon, or evening, whenever you choose to watch my videos.